أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. There's no God but you. Glory be unto you. Indeed, I was among the wrongdoers. Rabbi zidni ilma. O Lord, increase us in knowledge of the truth. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ameen. So today we are continuing on with the 21st flash on sincerity. We will begin on page 220 with the second example. So our reader, whenever you're ready, please begin. Thank you.
Okay. Second example. Craftsmen are obtaining significant wealth by cooperating so as to profit more from the products of their crafts. Formerly, 10 manufacturers of sewing needles all worked on their own, and the fruit of their individual labor was 3 needles a day. Then, following the rule of joint enterprise, the 10 men united. One brought the iron, one lit the furnace, one pierced the needles, one placed them in the furnace, and another sharpened the points. And so on. Each was occupied with only part of the process of needle making. Since the work in which one man was employed was simple, he did not waste time. He acquired skill and performed the work with considerable speed. The manufacturers divided up the work, performed in accordance with the rule of joint enterprise and the division of labor. They saw that instead of 3 needles a day for each man, it worked out at 300. This event was widely published among the craftsmen of the worldly in order to encourage them to pool their labor. My brothers, since union and accord in worldly matters and in dense materials yield such results and advantages, you can compare how vastly profitable it is for each to reflect in his own merit through divine grace, the light of all, which is luminous and pertains to the hereafter and does not need to be divided up and fragmented and to gain the equivalent reward of all of them. This huge profit should not be lost through rivalry and insincerity.
Thank you, Mariam. So I don't know, do you recall anything? I don't know if you were present last Sunday. Like, I need to go back a little bit, or if you want to just share out a little bit, anything that you took away from this? No pressure. I know we're talking about sincerity, and yeah, it would be a good idea to look into how we started off. So this is like an expounding of the verse from Quran chapter 2 verse 41. Nor sell my signs for a small price. And well, I think sincerity has to do with being true to one's human nature or oneself, because the evil commanding soul always presents us with the option of insincerity, as in, hey, I'm doing all this, it's my action, it's my doing, and we easily forget that who is the true provider of any of it that I'm doing. So I think like last time, just some brief recaps. Nor sell my signs for a small price will have to do with, I don't hold the absolute truth. The truth doesn't belong to me. So I cannot even take like even 1% of, I did this, but the rest, yeah, it's created by the creator of the universe. So I know the seed is created by the creator of the universe, the fruit is created by the creator of the universe, the tree is created by the creator of the universe, and all the constituent parts that go on in for a tree to come into existence is created by the creator of the universe. But you know what? I did a little something. I watered the seed, the plant, and everything. So I think that's the part that we need to be a little bit vigilant about. And yep, I see your hand is up, Miriam. Go ahead, please.
So I understood that you should like from it like kind of like work hard, but at the same time it says in sincerity like you shouldn't act like that. Like when you are like don't be so proud of yourself like showing off because you should remember who gave you the talent to be able to work hard.
Oh, thank you for sharing this. You're right. Definitely, like I take so much pride in things I do. And I think we all need to appropriate that feeling of taking pride to the one that's bringing everything into existence. And so I think I should be taking pride in the source of my existence rather than in myself. And yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, so just a little context on, what are we discussing? Really talking about not falling into the wrong option that our egotistical side, gets inclined towards, rather using it to really reorient ourselves. So yeah, you want to add on?
Sure, yeah. Part of the sincerity, as we were discussing, rivalry between brothers and sisters, friends, family members.
Mm.
We need to be mindful and watch out for that also, because for temporary material advantages, we probably most of the times we kind of get entangled into it and lose the actual purpose for what we are here for. So the a small price is also for something temporary. It's very cheap. It becomes very cheap, and a small price when you are actually, if you are in line with your true self, that is, you are doing it for the purpose of your creation, to acknowledge your Lord, and you're looking forward towards the absoluteness of your Lord. So that is looking towards eternity. So something for the temporary purpose, that is only for this, enjoying it for my temporary kind of worldly pleasure right now, versus enjoying, looking to connect myself to the eternal source, is a really small price, because I'm sacrificing eternity for something that is very temporary. It becomes very cheap, right? And as Maria was saying, you have to, to work hard, and there's a concept of unity, union, as you see, for example, and if you're building a house, if you're one person who is building the house, will take you a long time. But if you work in a team with that's what union brings. You have somebody who will do the floors, somebody who will do the walls, somebody who will do the windows, and somebody will do the plumbing, somebody who will do the electricity. So every work kind of is divided, and you can build a house much faster if you were to do it all alone. So there is this mystery of unity that comes into play. And the author gives the example of like a manufacturer of a needle, like for sewing needles, and somebody has to make a hole in that needle, somebody has to sharpen the points so the needle becomes sharp, and then somebody has to form and give the shape to it. So all those different elements, it has to be heated in the furnace. So if one can separate out and specialize in one particular area, they get experts in that and they do it much faster. Just like how in the car manufacturing also, when the car is being built, somebody is an expert in the tire, somebody is expert in the wheels, or the body of the car, somebody in the interior, somebody else in the the glass that goes and the coverings. So every specialty kind of works in terms of building the actual product. And the example, that second example, was talking about this, union and accord in worldly matters and in dense material yield such results and advantages. You can vastly understand, you can compare how vastly profitable it is for each to reflect in his own mirror through divine grace, the light of all. So instead of like argumentative, being argumentative with other members or your true brothers and sisters who are all trying to make their existence meaningful, one should basically work in unity and work in harmony with each other in order to reflect the qualities that everybody is reflecting, become a mirror and reflect those qualities. Become, each to reflect in his own mirror. So this is my responsibility, my duty to actually take care of my own I as a mirror. I have to just reflect, not own any of those qualities, but reflect them and let everybody else get that reflection as well. So everybody kind of works together in unity. If that made sense. Unless Mariam has any other comment or anybody else wants to add anything, please go ahead.
It's thank you. Yeah, that was helpful. I mean, I understand the part how teamwork makes things more faster, profitable, more efficient and effective. But how does it work out for the people of the truth, where I think everybody is, his own mirror, just like the author is saying. But let me just think a little more on that, and let's see what Ali Marmar has to say. Go ahead, please, Brother Ali.
First of all, I should thank Mariam today. It was a beautiful reading. It may be a good idea to read fast while you are reading an ordinary magazine or a simple storybook, but this book that we are reading is really very dense to follow, and the sentences are very long, and idea also is very deep. So while I was listening to Mariam today, I was able to follow the text and the meaning together, not only the letters of the text, but the meaning together. I really said I should raise my hand and thank Mariam for it. Now, thank you, Mariam, for reading comfortably, relaxed, slowly, articulately. Thank you. So, Mariam, can I speak to you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Rexy, for helping me to understand the subject. So, these people who were trying to make needles, instead of working individually by themselves and trying to make the needle. Now, their intention is to make the needle. Excellent, because that is the needle factory. But they said, let's share our work and put it in an order where together everybody will have a specialized area. So you will bring something, I will do the hole, and the other one will sharpen the, and of course this is a very, very old fashion of producing needle. No one does this like that, but as Asam said, for example, assembly line productions in, for example, car producing or airplanes producing, everybody is specialized in one aspect of the one part of the car or other, whatever they are producing. So it goes faster, faster. Okay. That is very easy to understand. And let's go back to needle making. The example says instead of each one makes one, for example, let's say 5 people are working together. Each one, if they separate the work, each one will produce one needle in 10 hours or 1 day, not whatever. It's an example. So at the end of the day, how many needles will they have? 5 people, each one produces one. That's a very simple example, simplified example. How many needles are they going to produce altogether? Oh, the text says 3. Okay, but I made it simple. 1 needle a day. 5 people are working. At the end, how many needles will be produced? Maria?
5 needles.
Oh, excellent. Okay, easy. The question is easy and answer is also perfect. So if they unite together, unite in working or making the needle, or the author says instead of 1, and altogether they made 100. 5 people makes 500. Okay, or 100. Let's be modest. 100. So at the end of the day, everybody says, okay, I contributed, we worked together, and let's share the needles. How many needles each person will get?
20
100 needles? 100 needles shared by 5 people. How many of them will get at the end of the day?
20.
Well, each of them will get 20 needle, not 100 needle. No, each of them 100 makes 500. No, they produce 100 needle. Okay? Fine, isn't it? It's very simple, isn't it, to understand it? But when it comes to religious matters, understanding a subject, especially sharing the truth of religion, sharing the truth of belief. If these 5 people, rather than working alone individually, studying or distributing the truth to the people individually, let's keep the same amount now. 5 people are conveying the message to 1 person a day. At the end of the day, individually. At the end of the day, how many messages will be conveyed to the other people? 5 people are working and conveying the message to 1 person a day individually and trying to learn the truth, and whatever they learn, pass on to other people individually. So 5 people convey the message. How many people altogether? And learn the truth, let's say 5 people. Each of them learn one truth a day.
Five, I think.
5, yeah. That's how simple, Each of them learns one part for himself, the other one works one part for himself, one part for himself. At the end, they learned 5 parts of the truth. But when they learn by uniting, everybody contributing his own understanding together. For example, this is the mystery that we have to understand. We are 5 people. I realize one truth in the text we read. Another person realize another aspect of the truth. While we are reading together, what happens while I am learning what I could learn by myself? If we unite together, if we work together, another person realizes another truth and we share together. So two people, not individually one, but each one benefited from the other one. So while I learn one truth, and also I share my friends working together, the truth, it becomes double, 2 truths I learned, because I share my brothers, my friends or co-workers together, it becomes 2. So let's say 10 people get together, or let's keep the same example, 5 people get together. While we are working together, reading one verse from the Qur'an, one of them understood one truth from one aspect of the verse, the other one realized another truth from another perspective of the verse, and 5 of them got from different perspectives, different truths about the one verse. Now, how many truths will be realized at the end altogether? 5 people? Look, 5 people studying one verse? No, 5 people studying one verse, and each of them realizes one aspect of the truth, and if I was alone, I would realize only one aspect of the truth a day. But because I am with 5 people, how many truths I learned as an individual? I'm working with 5 people. How many truths I learned from the one verse? A different aspect, different meaning in the verse that we are studying. How many I learned at the end of the day? Instead of one, I listened and learned from other friends at the same time, their perspective. How many perspectives of the verse I learned at the end? And any number you say?
5.
Yes. Although if I was studying alone, I would be learning one truth. Because I am united with 5 people studying together, at the end of the same amount of time, I learned 5 truths of the verse a day instead of 1. So how about the other brother, other person who was working with me and being together, and we were in a team of 5 people studying on the verse. How many aspects of the verse the second person learned a day? He is with me. We are sharing our ideas, supporting each other. How many aspects of the verse the second person learned? Any idea? Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Come on.
5.
Yes. Now, instead of at the end, if we were working together, look, if we were, if we were working alone, I would learn one aspect a day, the other person would learn one aspect, the other person would learn another aspect, another aspect, another aspect. Altogether, 5 aspects will be learned together if we were studying separately, not in a unity, not in unity, but separately. So each one will learn one aspect a day. Altogether, 5 people, 5 aspects a day. But if we work together 5 people, what happens at the end? Everybody learns how many aspects? When we were studying the verse together, everybody learns how many aspects? Each of them learns how many aspects when they are together? 5 people? Sorry?
5.
All of us, all together. I learned 5. The other one learned 5 instead of 1. If we were studying alone, we would learn 1. But if we were together, we would, like we are doing here. For example, you and I working, but the other friends are listening to us. They are sharing at the same time. So all together, how many truths have the 5 people will be learning all together, not individually, all together, 5 of them. Add to each other, all 5 of them. I learned 5, the second person learned 5, so 10. Another person learned 5. 5 people learns all together. Can you? 5 people all together?
25.
Yes. Now what happened? Now when we were, that is very important to notice, when we were producing the needle in unity, we produce 100, but each one of got only 20 out of 100 because 5 people divided. But the truth, reality is like a lamp, light. When the light, altogether 25, cannot be divided into each person, or the 5 people for each person, but we become all together, instead of learning one aspect, all together we learned 5 each of us, 25 aspects. It means in matter or worldly work, the production increases, but each person becomes a proportion of the number of the people. It means in the example of 5 people and produced 100 needle, each person got 20. But in matters related to reality, the truth, it multiplies. It multiplies. Altogether, I learn 5, the other one learned 5, the other one learned 5. Altogether, I don't know whether this example is a good one, but what I want to say, if we work together and make a lamp together, at the end, we don't share the light. Everybody gets the whole light. That is what I want to say. I think the example wasn't clear. Okay, I stop now. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Ali and Mariam. That was very helpful. So this is like a really mysterious side of things in this universe. So like in the physical world, anything material we're working on, that's easy. When we split up things, we split up revenue, we split up anything, we divide it up. But when it comes to learning the truth or anything, getting a message from something, like knowledge cannot be broken down or light in itself. So when we get illuminated by something, and it's a lot of us listening to it, studying it together, then that light that is imparted to the spirit, that cannot be divided up, that cannot be broken up, just like the physical matters or things. Wow, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Everybody gets the whole light, the whole lamp of light.
So when you build a lamp, everybody benefits from the light.
Yeah, I think there was an example.
It's not that you're going to run away, hey, I'll take the lamp. No, but it's everybody's taking advantage of the light. All right. So great.
Cool. So let's move on to the next one.
Okay. All right, wonderful. If there are no more comments on this, I think we should proceed with the next piece. So we're going to continue on reading from the second obstacle.
Destroying sincerity.
Yeah. And our friend Mariam, if you're ready, please proceed. Thank you. So Mariam, we can move on. So the text is highlighted in blue, so you can, inshallah, read up. Thanks. Okay, so we can, so whenever, go ahead, Mariam.
Sorry, I went after the chicks.
No worries, fine.
The second obstacle, destroying sincerity. This is to flatter the ego and give high status to the evil commanding soul by attracting attention to oneself and public acclaim. Driven by the desire for fame, renown, and position, this is a serious spiritual sickness that also opens the door to the hypocrisy and
Centeredness, self-centeredness.
Okay, self-centeredness, called the hidden association of partners with God and damages sincerity. My brothers, our way in the service of the Qur'an is reality and brotherhood. And the true meaning of brotherhood is to annihilate.
Annihilate, you got it, yes.
One's personality among one's brothers. Yes, happy is he who, in order to gain access to a large pool of fresh water filtered from the spring of the ground, casts his personality and egotism, which are like blocks of ice, into the pool and melts them, and to prefer their souls to one's own. Rivalry of this sort, arising from desire for rank and position, should not therefore be provoked. It is altogether opposed to our way. The brother's honor may be all the individual's generally. So I am hopeful that sacrificing that great collective honor for personal, selfish, competitive, minor fame and renown is far from being something the Risale-i Nur students would do. Yes, the heart, mind, and spirit of the Risale-i Nur students would not stoop to such lowly, harmful, and inferior things. But everyone has an evil commanding soul, and sometimes the soul's emotions affect certain veins of character and predominate to an extent in spite of the heart, mind, and spirit. I am not accusing your hearts, minds, and spirits. I have confidence in your mind, in you because of the effect of the Risale-i Nur. But the soul desires, emotions, and imagination sometimes deceive. For this reason, you sometimes receive severe warnings. The severity looks to the soul, emotions, desires, and imagination act cautiously. Yes, if our way had been subjection to a sheikh, there would have been a single rank or limited ranks, and numerous capacities would have been appointed to them. There could have been envy and selfishness. But our way is brotherhood among brothers. There is no position of father among them, nor can they assume the position of spiritual guide. In brotherhood, ranks are broad and cannot be the cause of an envious jostling. At the most, brother helps and supports brother. He completes his service. Evidence that much harm and always mistakes have resulted from the envy, greed for spiritual reward, and high aspirations of the paths of spiritual guides are the conflict and rivalry among those who follow them despite their vast attainments, perfections, and benefits, which have had the disastrous consequence of their vast and sacred power, being unable to withstand the gales of innovation.
Thank you, Miriam. We can stop here for now. That was a very mouthful, big paragraph. So thank you for reading it. And let's go now step by step. So I don't know, do you have anything that comes to your mind? Well, let me see somebody. If, oh, you have your hand raised up. Go ahead, Miriam. So I see your hand is raised up. No worries. If you want to share something, feel free.
Or anybody else.
Or anyone else would want to share something. Okay, so then let's look into it. So they're saying that this part destroys sincerity. So it's talking us through what can destroy sincerity. So I think the way Miriam shared her first comment about, flattering the ego, taking credit for things that really don't belong to me, in terms of all I'm doing is just following the order, right? And so I think, that destroys sincerity. And Miriam, you're saying so this piece is talking about, do you want to unmute yourself? Because you have some important points up there, and let's hear from you.
Importance of brotherhood is kind of like mentioned in this, and it's like being sincere to each other, because you're like helping each other. Like it's like brotherhood. It keeps you sincere with each other, close to each other, and like helping, and realizing who your creator is by being sincere, because you can only understand that like how I said it before, kind of, not like another word about it, saying like proud, like yeah, like that. You shouldn't be proud to your like brothers, because you have to be sincere to each other.
Mashallah, very good points. I think, yeah, that's what the author is pinpointing as well, the importance of brotherhood. And even in the point earlier where we saw how beneficial when you build a lamp together, everybody benefits from it. So it's really a matter of, like you said, being sincere towards this endeavor, and no, like, what do you say, taking pride in anything. I think what you can take pride is on the light that is seen at the end, and knowing who that light points to. Thank you for sharing this. And so let's see, and then so it's a spiritual sickness, really, like the flattery of the ego, which opens the door to hypocrisy, just like Miriam said. And we got to make sure that we maintain sincerity within brotherhood. So hypocrisy, self-centredness, egotistical aspect of the human side, it damages one's relationship with the source of one's existence. And so it's saying self-centeredness called the hidden association of partners with God. Yeah, that's another thing. If I, like taking pride on my own things, and I'm like a mini God or something. So first paragraph, I think it's clear. And then next one is, my brothers, our way in the service of the Qur'an is reality and brotherhood. And the true meaning of brotherhood is to annihilate one's personality among one's brothers, and to prefer their souls to one's soul. So I think the footnote also that Miriam read was, yes, happy is he who, in order to gain access to a large pool of fresh water filtered from the spring of the Quran, casts his personality and egotism, which are like blocks of ice, into the pool and melts them. What does that mean? I'm not sure. We can look into that, but I think it's minus the footnote, what I understand from those few sentences is that preferring others over your own soul, that helps to retain sincerity. So I think we hear that a lot, people first, helping others out. But I think there was another kind of statement like that a couple of paragraphs before. Annihilate, like, and the true meaning of brotherhood is to annihilate one's personality among one's brothers. So preferring others over yourself. So I think even when you are building the lamp all together, and everybody's working as a team for a final product, whatever is in our mind, you may get, it may be daunting, the task may be daunting, but just thinking about the others, oh my God, everybody's in there, no, I cannot give up, just because everybody's looking to get the light, I cannot give up right now. So let's build this lamp together. So I think rather than think, I'll benefit from it, no, it's, thinking about others, or I think maybe that's what it means. So that part is clear, but let's read the footnote again. So happy is he who, in order to gain access to a large pool of fresh water filtered from the spring of the Quran, casts his personality and egotism, as in throws away his egotism, which is like block of ice into the pool and melts them. So like the egotism is like block of ice, so you gotta throw it out so it melts. Yeah, it melts. That's it. I mean, I think maybe if there's more to it, feel free to share out. That was my brief takeaway. Do you have anything to add here or no? Okay, if not, does anybody else want to add? Ali Murmur, yes, go ahead, please. Help us out here. Thank you.
I don't guarantee that I will explain what I understood in a clear way, because it is rather difficult. There is a reason for its difficulty, because it is difficult. For example, the block of ice stands alone by itself and cannot get benefit from the fresh water in the pool, but stands alone by itself. So what it needs to do in order to benefit from the fresh water, just cast itself into the fresh water, and the fresh water helps it to melt, and it becomes not only a part of the pool, but it becomes integral part of the wood. So every part of the fresh water, every molecule of the block of ice becomes a pool now, not a whole, but it becomes a part of the pool and benefits from the freshness of this water. I don't know whether it makes sense or not. So what he says, instead of keeping your a block of ice like egoistic standing individually on your own, why don't you cast yourself into the brotherhood of the old people around you, and whatever the work they do, you benefit from them at the same time. As an extension of the previous, we studied the second example, or the first example, even it was on the same topic. Rather than keeping myself alone, making the lamp together and benefiting from the light of the one lamp, everybody equally, all of the light, without dividing it. In matters, we have to divide individually, but in spiritual matters, religious matters, we get all together. We learn all together. We get reward all together, not individually divided. Whatever the reward the community of brotherhood gained, everybody is given whole reward without dividing it between people. That is the grace of Allah, but I don't know whether it explains it, because for example, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, conveyed the message, distribute the message to the people. And those people around him distributed it to others, like a waves. It enlarged when you throw a stone, and then a circle of whale enlarges and multiplies to so you see that like that one, until us, the message the Prophet distributed or conveyed, spread, arrive at me and you. So the reward of my action, your religious activities, your understanding will be given to those people before us equally, because they helped the message arrive me and you. So every means in spiritual matters gains the whole result of the action or result of the message. Does it make sense? I think it doesn't with my language, but if you grasp it, please explain it in a plain way. I make the things difficult to understand.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Ali. That was very helpful, actually. So let me reiterate what I understood from it was, so I think going back to the whole point of brotherhood, if one wants to be sincere with their existential endeavors or with their human nature, then in order to avoid or in order to not fall into any sort of hypocrisy, it's wise to focus in on the fruit of teamwork, as in brotherhood, like people, friends who are working towards the truth together. And so that means that one has to really rend their ego, as in, per the analogy that the author is presenting here, the ice block, which is solid, it's hard. So if you throw it in fresh water, it's gonna diffuse with it. It's gonna melt in the water. So it becomes part of it. So, and again, you're not losing anything, rather you're gaining more. And as far as what was enlightening to me was the example of how when you throw a stone in a river or a lake, then there are like cripples, like circles, a lot of circles, small, bigger, 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 right? That everything around just gets a little fragment of the wave or something, like that movement is felt or is experienced by whatever is in the vicinity. And sometimes we can observe it through the cripples. We see circular, like circles. Yeah. And it's interesting. So from the time of how this message was disseminated to up until you and I right now in this day and age, we're all receiving the same light. Nothing more, nothing less. So I think this is very comforting, that even like the people around the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the companion, when they were, hearing the message, making sense of it. And now in this day and age, we're also hearing that message, trying to make sense of it. So all of us are equally benefiting from it. So it's not that, oh, I'm getting less light. No, the lamp is out there, but, we're getting the same light, that points to the source of their existence. Go ahead, Sohail.
So, yeah, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Ali was saying. The example he gives previously about the needle, as mentioned, sort of explains the second obstacle. It's interesting. To me, this is sincerity, at least in the way he's describing it, is for man to organize, or people, not just a singular man, but man in general, to organize themselves, or to organize themselves in such a way that they, through their multiplicity, reflect unity. And in that way sort of demonstrate the power of their absolute creator. Because by, every single individual joining together, can they accomplish something greater than any one individual could. So, for example, in the needle, while each person can produce 3 needles a day, each of them specializing or taking one part of the process. Not saying one is better than the other. One part of the process is better. Maybe getting iron or lighting the furnace, one isn't better than the other. They're all important, but each of them working together produces something far greater than any one individual could. And if you take away one individual, then the whole thing, in a way, collapses. And I think that's kind of what Dr. Ali was mentioning, in that every one person benefits from the work of the other, and they also individually benefit as well. So the person gathering the iron benefits from the person lighting the furnace, benefits from the person piercing the needles, and so on. But also they each benefit because they're able to produce more than one of them could accomplish. And that, as I mentioned, is a sign that, if you listen to your ego or self-centered, self-centered ego, or as he says, evil commanding soul, then it becomes about the individual. You're more interested in about yourself rather than the community or the collective brotherhood or collective personality. And if that's the case, as Dr. Lee mentioned, in the case of, Islam spreading, if it were that just one person, it's the task of one person and they have to do it, then it doesn't spread as far as, let's say, one person tells 2 people, and those 2 people tell 2 people each, and those 2 people also tell 2 people each. Rather than sort of a linear progression, one person tells one person tells one person, there's a, exponential growth. Something that the first person couldn't accomplish themselves, but each person in the chain is important to the spread of the message. And no person, I guess, except for the first person, you could say maybe, is, let me put it this way, every person is important to the chain of the transmission. So, that's kind of what I, took away. And in this regard, as he says, it sort of annihilates the self or annihilates the ego in the collective personality of people's shared brotherhood. Because, the aim is different. If somebody takes a self-centered approach, the aim is oneself. They're concerned about themselves or their own fame or flattery. Whereas if you take the way of shared brotherhood, the aim is something far greater than any one individual. That in this case, Qur'an or the absolute word of God or the truth. The power of the absolute truth is far greater than any one individual could ever accomplish on their own. And obviously that sort of history speaks for itself.
Yeah, thank you. So, to add to it, how the comments so far, I'm using the so okay. So to add, basically, the individual I, or when he says annihilate one's personality, so I mean that's the individual oneness or I-ness, the individuality. That's what the block of ice represents as standing on its own, and it does not benefit from the fresh water. But if I let go of my particular individuality in terms of, hey, I am also a contributing factor, and I try to keep that status of mine, that I-ness in myself, then that is problematic, because I'm not, discarding that egotism of mine, because that I is very much tied to the being egoistic and selfish, as if I am the one who is contributing, versus in a brotherhood, in a group of people, to benefit, I have to let go of that particular, hey, because of me, this whole project was successful. That is an egoistic kind of stand, versus, seeing the picture of everybody contributing and everybody working together is a different benefit that everybody gets. Like, when the block of ice is melted into the fresh water, everybody benefits from the fresh water equally, all together. So that's how I benefited from all of your comments.
That's awesome. Thank you, mashallah. Now it's making it more clear now, because the I is always there with the human being, and I think the block of ice is represented by the ego, just discarded.
That individuality, or that as being the agent or the contributing factor.
But how does that bother me?
And instead of the focus, which is of my relationship with God, or the purpose of spreading the message, is about me first, and then the secondary part is the spreading the message, or working towards the truth.
Okay, so now
but the primary part is focus on myself. Hey, I'm here. I'm the one who is kind of in this brotherhood group. So one has to let go of that and look to primary should be the product, the end product, or the focusing on the.
It should be the relationship with my Lord, and then.
Right, that should be primary, and then the rest doesn't matter. It's a.
Yeah.
Secondary.
Because
there's no part actually.
The reason, sorry, I'm cutting you off because I'm getting excited, because I was really trying to understand this whole ego part. I'm like, how do I get rid of it? It can be burdensome. But I think the first thing is my relationship with my Lord, because if I'm appropriating anything to myself, then the relationship is problematic with my Lord. So I throw that out. I'm like, this, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
The block of ice, and now I can work in harmony with you and the rest of creation to come up with the end product.
Right.
Oh, alhamdulillah, I'm so happy with this understanding and this teamwork, mashallah. Let's call it brotherhood and sisterhood. Look at that. Hatija Beza, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for all the comments so far. It's an interesting discussion, and I kind of wanted to share a question that I had, which was, I think, also answered as I was listening, which was, could it be, for example, that I might be following my self-centered selves, like acting in an egoistic way while thinking I'm following a sincere path, or in other words, from another perspective, you can say, can I follow the path of the sincere from my own egoistic gains? But I think just turning it to myself, just saying, could I potentially be acting in an egoistic way while thinking that I'm following the sincere path, but whereas, in reality, my intentions is, again, not perhaps for the ultimate gain, but for personal gain. And my answer to my own question is, I think essentially no, because if I am truly, if I truly quote unquote annihilate myself, as the ice cube in the pool of water, then there can be no room for anything egoistic in that manner. So if for example I were like, you know, my goal is for egoistic gains, but I'm looking at this path of sincerity and I'm like, oh, this seems, you know, if I follow this, then, you know, I'll be able to, we'll all benefit, but I'll be able to perhaps, you know, take some credit for myself, for example. If I approach it with that mindset, then I'm not really truly following the path, because there's always that aspect of it that looks to me that I'm trying to credit to myself or whatever the case is. So essentially, if I think that I'm following the sincere path, but there is a part of it that looks to my egoistic gains, then essentially I need to recheck myself to make sure that, you know, my intentions are in the right place, and maybe refresh myself, because I don't think the two can coexist together. If I, you know, I cannot sincerely follow the sincere path for egoistic gains in any way, if that kind of makes sense.
Thank you, Hatice Beza. Is there anyone else who wants to make a comment? If not, then you know what is interesting is I wanted to look into and to prefer their souls to one's soul. What is, can we a little bit unpack more here? To prefer other people's soul to one's soul, their own soul. I'm thinking, yeah. So what does it mean to prefer other people's soul to my own soul? As in, can it be equal? Why is there like a difference between you first and me later? I don't know. I'm thinking about, like, you know, when you're traveling on the plane, they always say, oh, make sure you put your mask on, you know, before helping somebody next to you, right? You gotta help yourself first before helping others. So maybe that's not that situation here, but there's another situation here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think it ties again to the individuality of having that I-ness to the person, to the, just like being the block of ice again.
Mm-hmm.
And so the preference has to be the fresh water, because there is more benefit in the fresh water versus, you know, the frozen block of ice.
Mm.
So letting go of that and preferring for the to benefit from the fresh water, or for the good, you know, the purpose that one is here for, to establish their, spread the message of the reality of truth as a team rather than as an individual. It relates to it, but I don't know if maybe somebody else has something more. I think HBza has her hand up, so
Let's hear from Hatice Beza.
Thanks, Faria. You know, along with Faria's question, you know, or Asim's answer to her question, can one truly, from one respect, completely prefer someone else to their own souls? In the sense that even in the scenario where I am sincere and my ultimate gain or my ultimate aim is to spread the truth, for example, the act of trying to do such a thing benefits me, for me, first and foremost. So even in my act of preferring someone else to myself, that in a way you could argue that is the preference of the self too, because it benefits me sometimes in serving someone else, or in, you know, maybe the airplane masking is not the best example here, but sometimes like in movies or stories, the motive is like, if you're looking for, or if you need to achieve something, sometimes by helping someone else, you end up helping yourself, or somehow it turns around and ends up being a means through which you can you achieve, or you receive assistance for whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So basically what I'm trying to say is that I think from one perspective, whatever I do, and if I do it sincerely, even if I don't necessarily do it so that or even if I prefer someone else's soul to mine, then I'm still benefiting myself because I'm acting in alignment with my creational command. So there's always a part of it that looks to me that benefits me regardless. So I don't know if it, like, it's possible to be completely selfless in that sense. I'm not sure if I'm just making a mess of everything here, but yeah.
Thank you for your comments, Hatice. So I really like the part about, how in movies they're like, oh, I was trying to help you, but in this whole process, I realized I need help myself. I think that's a typical human condition. So yeah. Oh, well, I'll think a little more on that, but thank you for the comments, and I don't want to ignore Suhail's comment as well. Can you please unmute yourself and express out what you mean over there? Thanks.
Just about the preferring one's soul or preferring another soul over oneself, and that anything less than that would elicit rivalry and defeat the purpose of collective brotherhood. So when you prefer another soul over the self, your concern is then brotherhood, or annihilating one's personality amongst brothers. But if it were equal or more important, then, if it were equal and it was between myself and another, why wouldn't I just pick myself then? So anything less than preference of another over oneself is going to elicit rivalry, as he says.
Yeah, okay. Theoretically, what you said makes sense, but I need to think a little more on this. But I think I like the part about, like you're saying, if I'm reading the comment, if two were equal, if the souls were equal, the soul would prefer the self. Okay, yeah, that's a given. So rather than preferring other soul, I rather say I prefer brotherhood. I think that's more safe, but yeah, I think I'll I think it does make sense, but Asifa, let's hear from you.
Assalamualaikum. I'm still questioning this part, to prefer their souls to one's own, and just like a lot of other comments, I'm also thinking that I feel like I'm doing the right thing. Basically, my soul is also going towards the truth, and my brother's, our friend's soul is also going towards the truth. Why can't I just like it equally rather than preferring their own? And really practically speaking, just like I think Sohail said, that, if both souls were equal, you would rather prefer your own soul. But even with that, rather than preferring someone else's soul, why can't I just equally, I guess, I'm not sure this word would be right, like their soul, same as mine? So those were it was a question and like my kind of takeaway on that.
Thank you, Asifa. Very helpful. I'm glad you brought this up. So now while you were speaking, I think now the way I'm looking at it, alhamdulillah, it's just that I think what the author is helping us do is getting out of falling into any kind of egotistical attitude. So if I want to be on the safe side, then I'll have to prefer other soul over myself. And I think being like a mother, maybe, like how the mother, the author always gives examples of, the chicken would be ready to fight a lion to save her kids, right? So I think we can see that quality in all mothers. Mothers are ready to do anything for their children. So I think looking at it in that regards can help assimilate the case better into our beings, because we want to avoid the self-centeredness. We want to avoid boosting the ego. We want to avoid any ingredients of egoistic flattery, appropriating things to myself, like a mini god, anything. Even like, oh yeah, it's mine. Anything of that nature needs to be avoided, as in like clean out, how we're like brooming around, just clean out that dust. So in order to avoid it, it's better to prefer other people's soul to yourself. I think it's also, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking also like, even other things. I remember growing up, my dad would always say, sometimes I would express out something like an ingratitude thing. It's like, okay, I'll look at, so and so, like people who are less impoverished than you, right? So I think helping yourself out, not to fall into any kind of negative attitude, then you have to take this route or like reason that way. But yeah, just some thoughts that are coming up. Sohail, your hand is up. Go ahead.
One issue I have with that explanation is that it can sound a bit hypocritical when if someone says I'm going to prefer someone else to protect myself, and it sounds a bit self-serving. I think his simple point is that when you prefer others over oneself, as you mentioned, like a mother, it annihilates the self in shared brotherhood, because that's a genuine feeling that you have in that the collective personality or shared brotherhood is far more important and far greater a responsibility than any one individual. And that's what somebody genuinely feels. And to me, that's the state I think he's talking about reaching. I'm not saying it's easy, but if people in general felt that way, I think obviously the best example is the Prophet and his companions. Then the result of that collective work is far greater than any one individual could accomplish. I mean, it's well known that the spread of Islam is. It's completely unheard of, the spread of an idea, especially without technology or mass telecommunication in that century, that era, to such a vast part of the world and to so many people and so quickly. Primarily because, because obviously the Qur'an or the powerful nature of the truth, but also because the people spreading that truth didn't prefer themselves over others. They were willing to sacrifice themselves, potentially even by life and death, for the purpose, for a sole purpose. Because, I mean, to make it more personal, let's say, you know, one could say, I could say that, you know, they preferred over their life that maybe somebody like me or knows the truth. I mean, many centuries later, but that's the power of their worldview. It wasn't to, I mean, obviously it does protect the self from being insincere, but that's not the objective. The objective to me was, or the feeling itself is more important. And the result is obviously that it protects one from insincerity. But to me, having a genuine feeling about preferring others over the self, because if one didn't, then that's, to me, you're just, in a sense, one is just still being self-centered or egoistic.
I think it's it's a matter of, you know, like going back to Ali Murmur's analogy about the lamp. You know, a bunch of people were like, yeah, let's build a lamp, right? It's gonna be source of light for everybody. I think knowing what's at stake here in terms of all collectively working together to get the light, then I think you're more inclined to like not focusing on your soul, rather the end product. We need light, as in depersonalizing my endeavors. So rather than, oh man, I need light, I'm gonna go and sign up in this lamp making project. Rather than that, I say, oh, we need light. Or maybe it may start, you know, I'm in need of light. And oh, you too, yeah, everybody is in need of light. So let's all sign up for this lamp making project. So I think that helps more, like from the individual to the we, from I versus we, rather than I versus you, because then it's that becomes a little problematic. I think when we work in groups, it's yeah, I think that helps the case. And Ali Murmur, go ahead, please.
Before we conclude this second obstacle, destroying sincerity, one thing really on the following page on the screen so attracted my attention. It says towards the end of the paragraph we have been studying, not the very end, but 5 lines above, I am not accusing your hearts, minds, and spirits. You got it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, that's it. I'm not accusing them, because he's emphasizing in his writing that you should be very careful about preserving the unity among yourself, solidarity among yourself. You shouldn't act individually. You have to act together in harmony with the others around you. As if they are really rivaling each other. They are competing with each other, as if there is a conflict among them. No, as far as we know from the narrations, that they never had such thing. But the author says, look, I am not saying that your heart is polluted, your mind is distorted, your spirit is corrupt. No, I'm not saying all this. By emphasizing on the unity of the community, it means brotherhood, establish the brotherhood and preserve it among yourself. But he says on the very last line, but the severity looks to the soul, emotions, desires, and imagination. So look, your heart is pure, I am sure. Mind is pure. Your spirit is pure, I am sure. You have a very good, excellent intention. But don't forget, you have ego. Nefis, the soul here is nefis. Nefis is really ego. Everybody has egoistic tendencies. You have emotions. Emotions need to be under control. So you have to be aware that if you just leave your emotions act on their own, then you will be really going out of this unity and becoming an self-centric individual. And you have desires. Yes, it is difficult to understand that how I should really prefer another people's soul rather than mine. Oh, especially in this culture, in this civilization, it is something stupid. Why should you? You have to preserve your own right first. No, no, no. Your brother's right first. And then you will gain so much confidence among yourself that your brother also prefers you to his own over his own egoistic tendencies. So be careful, and it is a good advice for us as well. I don't have a bad intention while I am speaking now, for example, but I have to watch out whether it is a self-centric way that I am asking for the permission to speak in order to impose myself. And also I may really be led by my emotions, by my desires, even by my imagination, although it's not really, I don't confirm it, but I may be led by my imaginations. So the conclusion is act cautiously. Act cautiously, be careful whether I am really under the control of my egoistic desires, emotions, imaginations. But I have to really always on alert, not to be led by these emotions or the things. But my soul, it means my intention is pure because I want to share the truth which I accept and I confirm with my brothers here. I have a good intention, but how I have to be very cautious not to mix this intention with my emotions and ego-centered expectations, maybe egoistic attitudes. Yeah, that is why we are reading this book on sincerity. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali, for adding that comment. So I think the whole point is just to keep checking myself in terms of how am I analyzing any case for myself. I feel weird saying for myself, but I think that's what I took away. But I think let's think a little more on this, inshallah. Next time I would want to, let's pick up, because we are not done with this second obstacle, right? We didn't go over the last paragraph, so we can start off with a little debriefing on this last points that we were having dialogues about, and then go over the last paragraph before we continue on with the third obstacle. Alhamdulillah. Thank you all for coming in, joining in on this interesting Sunday afternoon. Thank you for participating, your comments, questions, and everybody else just for being here and joining the Brotherhood. circle here. Until next time, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save except that which you've taught us. Indeed, you are all knowledgeable, all wise. Wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. بحرمة سورة